Hey, in 2012, we lost a legend, but some say Whitney Houston never truly checked out the Beverly Hilton Hotel.
A ghost fools a state trooper into believing he's human. There's a lot of details along this story, so pay attention. I'm gonna go fast.
Tonight I'm going to tell you the ghost story of Daniel Robitaille. Now this is one of those ghost stories where the dead don't stay dead, so let's go ahead and get into it. Now,
Hi guys, you're back again with another creepy story. Today's story is about ghosts. I said what? Ghosts. We're gonna talk about ghosts and its mysteries. Do you believe in ghosts? Yes, I do. I do believe in ghosts because everything on this earth that has name do exist. So today's story is coming from our favorite TikTokers who are going to share with us their encounter or some stories about ghosts that they've heard. They are going to tell us all of them today. So if you think it's something that you like and you want to listen, kindly grab your seat and also your popcorn and let's dive into the story together.
Hey, in 2012, we lost a legend, but some say Whitney Houston never truly checked out the Beverly Hilton Hotel. It was the night of the Grammys, obviously something she's used to. As y'all remember, she was the biggest, and she's a big Leo. Shout out to all the Leos like me, gang, gang, gang. Glitz, glam, and history in motion. But behind one hotel door, silence fell. Whitney Houston, life lit in her hotel suite. And ever since this day, the hotel has never been the same again. Or felt the same, if you know what I mean. So staff at the Beverly Hilton, they hear whispers late at night. The halls grow still. You can hear a faint singing echoing from an empty room. Notes, soft, almost angelic, as if Whitney herself was rehearsing for one last encore. Many guests have stayed there. They said the air grows thick near her old suite, heavier, colder, like someone unseen is standing right behind them. And the strangest reports? People looking into the mirrors. And by the way, y'all need to stop playing with them mirrors. If you know, you know. Damn mirror is like a portal. Be careful. Don't be sleeping in front of it. Don't be staring too long. Also, y'all need to cover y'all mirrors at night. But we'll get into that in another video. So the guests were swearing they've seen Whitney's reflection looking back at them. Yes, y'all. Whitney in the mirror looking back at them. That's crazy. Even when they were completely alone. Room 434 is where Whitney passed. So the Beverly Hilton quietly removed it out of rotation. I guess weirdly enough, a lot of people requested to stay there after this, like many people. And they didn't want it to be a morbid, like Hollywood attraction. So they stripped the room bare. They even took the numbers off the door. So people aren't creating no shrine or think they're gonna get a souvenir out the room. So technically people not even supposed to know what room it is. But I'm like, people have common sense. They can figure that out. Like I literally found online easily when the whole hall got renovated. And this is Whitney's room that she passed it. Just looking at it, I don't get no vibes from it. Just from looking at it, I get a vibe. Like, I don't know. Yeah, so they wanted to stop that morbid curiosity before it even began. I think that's very strange. After this lady passed, y'all was calling them to that hotel to go stay there in that room, in that suite. One, y'all would spend all that money to stay in a room that someone was unalived in. Two, I don't know where y'all morals and standards are. Ethically, that feels a little bit crazy to me and wrong. Trying to capitalize off of a ghost. Y'all don't leave Auntie Whitney alone. But y'all, so after renovations, the room was quietly reopened again. There's no plaques, there's no memory, just another room. They want this to fade away, basically. Except her energy never left. And even Bobby Brown once said he believes her spirit still walks those halls. A presence that refused to fade away. So what are the people like really hearing? I wonder, is it like her grief or is it something else? Does the greatest voice of all time still haunt the halls of the Beverly Hilton? Maybe some voices are too powerful to silence. If you watched my video before this, I did a video on Queenie from American Horror Story, and she was also trapped in a hotel. Her spirit. I don't trust hotels at all, y'all. I used to work at hotels, and I know a lot of demonic spirit, fairy running, ghosts. I've had to deal with a lot, so I only could imagine. Also, why were hotels even made in general, in existence? Of course, so a bunch of people can stay there, you know, but still, I don't know, there's something just weird about the whole hotel industry and structure to me. And you guys know they put a lot of truth in these television and films. There's too many hotel movies that got darker things going on. On top of that, I believe Whitney was unalived. There was some agenda, something going on. Not sure if she sold her soul or she refused to sell her soul, which resulting in them coming for her and making it seem like an accident. You guys know they love to do that. Yes, y'all, I 100% believe some foul play was involved in here. And even though she was an icon, when it comes to us black people, we don't get the best care when it comes to investigation, reports, evidence. I've seen a lot of cracks in this story in general since I was a kid. But yeah, I think that's why her spirit is still around. She trying to tell somebody the tea. And she's not going until they make it right with her. Because Bobby Christina passed as well. So we know she should have the ability to be with her daughter. But something else is keeping her here. Let me know in the comments what y'all think. Y'all think something is holding Whitney here? Do you think she was set up and unalive? One of the greatest voices in history. And the story is still not clear. I have never heard of spirits that left peacefully and passed away on their own stick around. Of course, they'll come visit you or show you in a different type of way and form. There might be a butterfly, might be a red bird, or you might smell a familiar scent. But no way this lady's sticking around this hotel for no reason. So y'all let me know what y'all think in the comment. I'm Cube of Lore. This is Forbidden Lore Season 2. Ghost stories. If you like content like this, don't forget to engage from the bottom up. That's like, comment, subscribe. You already know all that. But more importantly, follow me. Because how you gonna watch my whole video and not support? It's almost like y'all don't want me to become a big creator. Stop the hating. Let me be a streamer and influencer. Why? Why not? Y'all already like me. Come on, y'all. Stop demanding. For Auntie Whitney. For the Leos. As always, this is only for entertainment purposes only. Or allegedly, hypothetically speaking. Alright, I'm gonna call y'all back with the next story. Cause it's getting weird out here. Just make sure y'all be careful. Be careful. Be fucking careful.
A ghost fools a state trooper into believing he's human. There's a lot of details along this story, so pay attention, I'm gonna go fast. He says I'm a state trooper and I spend most of my time on the highways, but this time was different. It was July 23rd, 2009. I was on my way back to the barracks to deliver paperwork. I was taking the back roads. I was driving along and all of a sudden all the lights in my squad car started flashing and the car died. Luckily I was able to coast into the driveway of this old farmhouse. As I pulled in the driveway I saw this older man walking by the barn. He took a look at me and continued on his way. I remember thinking it was weird that he didn't wave or even look startled that I was there. I tried to start my car a few more times but got nothing. The next step was to call dispatch and get some help. I tried calling it in but the radio didn't work. And there was no signal to my cell phone. So everything in the squad car was useless to me at that point. The only option left was to approach the farmer and ask him to use his phone. I got out of my car and immediately noticed the big white farmhouse on the driveway. It looked like it needed a coat of fresh paint, but other than that it looked well maintained. There was a wooden rocking chair on the porch, swaying in the breeze. This'll come into play later. The barn was classic red in color. It too needed a new coat of paint, but it was obvious that it was still functional. I could smell fresh thrown hay and cows. I started to head towards the barn as I yelled, "Hello!" I got no reply, but as I opened the door, I was surprised to see a milking parlor. I remember thinking how oddly quiet it was because I didn't see or hear the old man. I thought I missed him, so as I turned around to head to the house, I turned around to see the old man standing right behind me. I have to admit, that startled me. I didn't hear or see where he came from. Realizing he startled me, he suddenly asked me, "Are you having car trouble?" "Yes, sir, I am. Would you mind if I used your phone?" He said, "We can walk up to the house, or you could use the phone in the milking parlor, just so long as you don't take too long." He turned to walk towards the house and then suddenly stopped, as if remembering some sort of common courtesy that he had forgotten, and he asked me, "Can I get you a glass of water?" I said some water would be great, thank you, sir. He nodded his head and started walking towards the barn, where there was an old phone hanging on the wall. He saw me pick up the phone when he turned around and walked away. I called dispatch, they said they'd have someone there within the hour. When I hung up the phone, he walked back in and handed me my glass of water. As we walked out of the barn, I noticed he was wiping his hands on a rag, apparently to get some grease off. He said, "You're not the only one with mechanical problems, I'm working on something too." He seemed to have a hard time getting his hands clean. Dispatch told me they have a wrecker on the way and it shouldn't be too long. The farmer nodded and pointed towards my unit. He said, "Why don't you let me help you get that up the road so they can find you?" He said they never look in the driveway, so it's best we push it up to the road. As we walked to the car, we passed an old picnic table. He said, "You can leave your glass on the table there, son." I forgot I was even holding it. I drank the last of it and set it on the table. He said, "You get in and steer, I'll push." Being an ox of an old man, I knew he could do it, but I was reluctant to let an old man push me while I steered. But he stood at the back of the car with both hands on the trunk and eyes facing forward. There would be no changing his mind. As soon as the car started rolling, I jumped in the seat and closed my door. I looked in the rearview mirror and waved as he turned around and walked back to the house. About 45 minutes later, a wrecker appeared to find me sitting in the cruiser waiting for him. The driver looked up at the farm and said, "We have to hurry up with this hookup and get the hell out of here." He seemed very nervous, anxious, and spooked at the same time. It was obvious he did not feel comfortable there. We hopped up in his truck and headed back to the barracks garage. The ride back with the tow truck driver was awkwardly silent. He kept staring at me, looking like he was surprised I had nothing to say. When we arrived back at the barracks, I was surprised to see an audience waiting for us to arrive. As soon as I stepped out of the wrecker, I was bombarded by a crowd of people asking me about my big adventure and how I was doing. Everyone was asking, "Did you talk to the old farmer?" I said I did. He didn't seem chatty or anything, but he did let me use his phone, and he even helped me push my car to the end of the road. Suddenly, everyone's eyes got wide open and their jaws dropped as everyone ran away from me over to the squad car to look at the back of it. I said to the tow truck driver, I said, "What's the big deal?" He said, "You don't know?" looking at me in disbelief. "No, obviously I don't. What's up?" You see, as a state trooper, I knew the streets, but I didn't know the people or the history. He said back in the 70s, a farmer shot himself in that milking parlor in the barn, and that a few families tried to start up the milking parlor, but it didn't last. He told me no one has lived there since the 80s, and it's haunted. I could feel the blood rush from my face. A seasoned officer told me to hop back in the car and let's go for a ride back out there. I told him everything that had happened, but as we pulled up, I noticed things were different. Tree branches had overgrown into the driveway, even scraping on the squad car. That was new. Shutters were falling off, there was no paint left on the barn, and that rocker on the porch was completely busted and rotted. We got out of the cruiser and walked up to the barn. I glanced over at the table under what was now a dying shade tree and pointed out the glass of water that I just left there a little while ago. As we walked into the barn, there was something else that was brand new. A thick layer of dust had blanketed everything in there. I burst through the door and went straight for the phone. It too was covered in dust, but my fresh fingerprints were on it. I picked it up by the receiver and was shocked that there was no dial tone. That shook me to my core. I put it back on the hook and said, "Yeah, we can go now." Turns out this cop was a paranormal investigator on the side, and he was like a kid in a candy store. He had so many questions and he wanted to do a lot more looking, but he realized how shook I was and we went back to the barracks. When we arrived back there, curiosity got the best of me and I had to go check out the back of the car. We both walked over to it and noticed 2 greasy handprints on the trunk of the squad car, exactly where someone would put their hands to push it. That was several years ago now and I don't work that area anymore, but I've driven back to that old farmhouse many times. It has since fell victim to arson and is now burned to the ground. But just being on that land again gives me the creeps. I'll never forget that experience. Farewell, old man.
Tonight I'm going to tell you the ghost story of Daniel Robitaille. Now this is one of those ghost stories where the dead don't stay dead, so let's go ahead and get into it. Now the image shown behind me is a photograph of a young Daniel, and Daniel by all accounts lived an exceptionally charmed life. He grew up the son of a previously enslaved couple that made their fortune creating technology that was used in the mass production of shoes, and as a result, he got to enjoy all of the trappings of the wealth that came with it. He had all the best clothes, went to all the best schools, and mingled with high society on a regular basis. And by all accounts, he was generally well liked. But even more, there was something special about Daniel that attracted people from all over, and that was his prodigious art talents. Daniel was a masterful painter and was able to capture the wealth of the people around him, something that was a bit hard to find those days. And as a result of this prodigious talent, Daniel was receiving calls from all of the 1%, every single person wanted Daniel to capture their likeness and of course capture and document their wealth. And Daniel was able to make a really good living making his art. He grew a name away from his parents and was able to stand alone in his own right, and this made him quite popular. Even better for Daniel was that a lot of his subjects ended up being repeat customers, and they would call him and commission him to paint different members of their families. And this, sadly, is where Daniel's story takes a sharp left. So one fateful day, one of Daniel's repeat customers commissions him to make a painting of his daughter, Caroline. Now, in some stories, her name is actually Caroline. In other tellings of the tale, she doesn't have a name at all. But for this, we'll go with Caroline. And of course, Daniel agrees. One, because the sum of money is quite substantial. And two, because Caroline is smoking, like she's hot. And so he happily accepts the job. But this is where things tend to unfold even more, because as he's painting Caroline, he begins to fall in love with her. And what's worse is that she begins to fall in love with him too. It's very Jack and Rose. It's not supposed to happen, despite the fact that Daniel is rich and wealthy and comes from a good family on his own. Society says, black man, white woman, absolutely not. But you can't stop love, and the two of them went on to have relations, resulting in an unplanned pregnancy. Now, of course, this is still the 1800s, late 1800s, but the 1800s nonetheless, and this is a problem because in addition to asking Daniel to paint his daughter's picture, one of the explicit instructions in doing so was to capture her virginal essence, to make her appear very pure. Ideally, not only would this help her on the marriage market, but for a man to have good-looking kids, it definitely helps his social prospects as well, especially if he plans on social climbing through his children. So for him, he had multiple intentions with this painting. One, to capture his wealth. Two, to capture his daughter's beauty and her virginal essence. And three, to maybe subtly flex on other wealthy men of the time and possibly use her to make a business agreement in the form of marriage. But that does not work well when your daughter is knocked up by the black painter you hired to capture her virginal essence. I will say that again. Her virginal essence doesn't look good, does it, when she's pregnant? Now, of course, her father couldn't let that slide. So what did he do? He plotted revenge. Now, of course, as a man of means, he would never bother with getting his own hands dirty. So what he did was hire a gang to do the dirty work for him. Now, I forgot to mention that this story takes place around Chicago during the 1890s. I know I mentioned the year, but I didn't mention the location. So all of these events are taking place in Illinois. So back to the story. Now, the gang this man hired to take care of Daniel definitely took some creative liberties in how they dealt with him. So the first thing the gang did to poor Daniel was make him flee, and they chased him all night until he could run no more. The second thing they did to poor Daniel was cut off his right hand, and this was deliberate. This was intended to punish the artist who used that hand to create. The third thing they did to poor Daniel was find an atrium nearby. Now, this atrium was filled with trees, and these trees were filled with bees who had their hives there. This gang took those hives and they brought it over to Daniel and they slathered them with the honey and they let those angry bees sting him. Now, the fourth thing they did to Daniel was crudely fasten a hook to the hand they just cut off. And the fifth and final thing they did to poor Daniel was burn him alive. And they all stood around and watched. Now, the sixth and final thing they did to poor Daniel was take his ashes after he had been burned alive and sprinkled them throughout a place called Cabrini Green. After that, they went about their merry business, were never seen or heard from again. Now, that's not where the story ends. You see, I promised you a ghost story. So fast forward a couple of years, and it's the early 1900s. People are starting to report a man walking around with a hook for a hand, and every time somebody reports this man, there are bodies that follow with it. It's as though this man was killing these people. Even more so, it's said that you can conjure this man. This man has no name that they know of, but it's said that if you stand in a mirror, repeat the name Candyman 5 times, that he will appear behind you, hook hand and all, and will probably unalive you. So I would probably avoid doing that if I can, but some people are risk takers. I'm not. Anyways, let me know what you guys thought of this video in the comments, and if you caught the movie reference I was making this entire video, and let me know what you want to see next.
Wow, things are really getting interesting. The stories are so interesting so far, and I'm not surprised because I've heard a lot of them, and I think you also enjoy it. Let's continue watching it, okay? But please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe as the story goes on.
I worked as a security guard in a mall. Worst, probably the worst, other than a museum and a cemetery. I have to say that. And maybe a morgue. Yeah, don't do that. But no, there was this girl, a little girl who died in our mall. She died at the coin little wishing well thing that you put coins in. I think she drowned. So one night I'm working security, right? I got so many stories. One night I'm working security and we were closing up and we hear screams coming from where the bathroom area is at, right before you get to like the security area. And we heard a little girl screaming and there was nobody there. There was another night, which was really creepy, when I was driving around the perimeter, whatever. And I was in the car doing the top level and bottom level, driving around. There was one on foot security guard on the inside, and then there was another one in the little hub area. So while I'm driving, we're closing down, the mall's getting closed, we clear everybody out of the mall and whatever. And I hear the vet security guard, he was like, yeah, there's somebody, and the young boy was in the hub. The vet security guard was on foot. So the young guy that was in the hub, he was like, I'm looking at security cameras. There's still somebody at the food court in front of the Whipped Creamery, which was like an ice cream shop. And so the one on foot was like, okay, I'm gonna go to the food court, tell him he got to go. Okay. And he was like, what is he wearing? He was like a white t-shirt and some blue jeans and a fitted cap. So he goes to walk to the food court and I can hear everything on my walkie. So he gets to the food court, right? And he gets on a walkie. He was like, where is the person that we're trying to tell to leave? Because I don't see nobody up here. And the boy that's in the hub, he's like, he's right there. He's standing right there with the cap on right in front of the ice cream restaurant, right in front of the ice cream little shop. So the security guard, right, who was sent up there, walks into view. This is what I saw after they replayed it, right? Because the boy was like, y'all not finna sit up here thinking I'm crazy. The security guard walks into view, puts his hands up on camera like, where? I don't see anybody. But while he's doing this, the man has his back to the camera because he's standing in front of like the damn cashier. I mean, the cash register, like he's about to order food. And so basically they were standing side by side. Like they were standing side by side. The security guard was in the camera with his arms up, shrugging like, what are you talking about? While the man was next to him, just standing there, just literally standing there. When that boy saw that, he said, well, just come back up here. I got to show you something. He was like, okay. He said, just come back up here. I got to show you something. I'm hearing this on the walk. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So when I did my stuff, I had like 30 minutes left on shift, got out the vehicle, parked it, did my little inspection, walked in. And they were like, let me show you something. Let's show you something. I got to show you something. That's what the boy said. And he was like kind of visibly spooked. And when we watched the video back, I said, oh, hell no. Hell no. There was nobody there. On camera, there was somebody there, but physically there was nobody there. But I got so many stories. So if you ever just want to if you just love paranormal activity, work as a night security guard for any warehouse. I won't even say warehouse, but like a mall or a museum or something like that.
Y'all want to hear some scary shit? This next story took place in San Antonio, Texas, again at the Martin Luther King Bridge. Y'all see that bus stop right there? Yeah, that one. So this story has 3 characters, Honey, T-Row, and RJ. The names have been changed of a couple of the characters for privacy purposes. So Honey was sitting at this bus stop and RJ's best friend, T-Row, came by in a blue Buick. Now, Honey and T-Row had some history. T-Row was RJ's best friend. RJ is Honey's cousin. T-Row and RJ were always into shit. And if anybody knows San Antonio in the early 90s, y'all will know it was a hot ass mess. I'm talking violent as hell. Anyways, T-Row thought Honey was the most beautiful creature he had ever laid his eyes on, and he used to always ask her to marry him. Marry me, marry me, marry me. If you marry me, I will get out the streets. I will stay out of trouble. T-Row got into shit so deep that RJ was begging Honey, please marry my best friend. Like, if he's a good dude, he just always in this stuff. Like, he'll, take care of home if you marry him. And Honey was like, hell no. I ain't gonna do it. So now that y'all got the background, Honey was sitting at this bus stop and T-Row came pulling up in a blue Buick. And he was laughing and smiling like normal, like, hey, I will give you a ride, come on. And she was like, no, I'm not getting in the car with you because you're always in shit. I'm not getting in the car with you. And T-Rail was like, man, come on, where you going? She was like, I'm just going down there, but I'm not getting in the car with you. I went on the bus. And he was laughing so hard. And he was like, come on. And she was like, no, I'm not going with you any damn where. I will wait on the bus because I don't want to catch no strays in this car with you. So T-Rail takes off that way down the bridge, and Honey looks down at her Jet magazine and looks up because she was like, maybe I do want that ride. And he was gone. Now that bridge is pretty long, and it was a few seconds in between. She was like, maybe he was just speeding. The next week, Honey was visiting her brother in prison in Three Rivers, Texas. And guess who was there? T-Rail's brother also. So Honey says, hey, I seen T-Rail last week. He was trying to give me a ride, down the street. I did not get in the car with him. T-Rail brother was like, you saw who? She said, I saw T-Rail. He was trying to get me to get in the car and take a ride, give me a ride to where I needed to go. And his brother was like, you couldn't have seen him. He got killed a year ago. Say what?
So, in honor of spooky season, here is another creepy story of my childhood home in Detroit. So, I was like 4 or whatever. I want to say it was like a barbecue or like we was just having a party or something. And at some point, I think I fell asleep in my grandma's arms on the porch. So they took me upstairs. Now, with the house that I said before, like this, so much activity going on, you couldn't pay me to go anywhere in that house by myself. So when I fell asleep, they took me in the house. And, so I wake up, house is completely dark. I can look over, I can see my sister. She's laying in the bed in her crib. I'm laying in my bed. I'm pretty sure my mom is gone. She worked that night. And my dad is in the room. So I'm laying there, and there is this nightlight next to my bed. So I'm just up. I'm trying not to think about how creepy this house is. So I'm just laying there, and I just start making a shadow. So I start making like a bunny rabbit or whatever, cast the shadow on the wall, and I'm just, bouncing around or whatever. And I stopped because something was like, rabbit. The fuck was that? The fuck was that? So I'm like, nah. So I'm just like laying still now, and then it sounds like I can't see nothing, but it's something like next to my bed now, just like, do it again, do it again, do it again. Just kept saying it over and over and over. I'm about to shit myself. So I described the layout in the last video, where it's like you come in to the left, you go up the stairs, go up, whatever. So when you go into our house, the kitchen is to the left, keep going straight to the living room, make a left, the dining room, there's my parents' room, and then there's me and my little sister room. Where me and my little sister room was, there's the attic, and in the closet is the entrance to the attic. And to make it worse, there was no door on the closet. So it was just open. Like, you can just look in there and it's just dark as fuck. Even in the daytime, you look in the closet and look up, it's just dark as fuck in the attic. So yeah, something is telling me like, do it again, whatever. I'm scared shitless. I don't do it again. So it started making my toys, Play-Doh and stuff, just circle at the top of my bed. So now I'm just under the cover, just staring at my shit fly over my head into a circle. I'm like, I gotta be dreaming. So everything, to me, it seemed like everything flew back over onto the dresser or whatever, but I don't know. But I got out the bed and I'm like, Daddy. It was like, Daddy, 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 Daddy. Daddy did just all different type of voices coming all like it was crazy. So it's like, Daddy, 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 Daddy. I was like, can I sleep with you? It's like, can I sleep with you? Can I sleep with you? Can I sleep with you? Just, man. So I get into my dad's room. I finally fall asleep, whatever. And then I wake up and he's in the living room. He like, damn, little nigga, you didn't kick me out the bed. And I'm just looking at him like, you don't even know, bro. You don't even know. Like that house was crazy. And just to fast forward a little bit, like after I actually moved out of the house, my cousin and my aunt stayed there still. And like surprisingly, nothing really happened. Like I think I was like 7, 8, still going back over there, and nothing. Like I could sleep. Nothing weird happened. Like I had it in the back of my mind, like I know what this place is. But it was one of the times I went back and I was standing over there, and me and my little cousin, we outside just dribbling the basketball, and they rented out the upstairs to some people. And it's like 3 little girls. They look tired. They look tired as fuck. So me knowing what's going on, I swear this seemed like it was like a movie. So I just looked at them. I was like, y'all see it too, don't y'all? And they just looked at me. It was like, and I'm like, y'all parents don't believe you? And it's like, no. And I'm like, y'all in that room back there where the attic is? They was like, yeah. It's just, they look terrified. Sucks. It sucks. Look, when your kids tell you they see stuff like legit and they're describing something to a T, believe them. Believe them.
Did y'all hear about that woman that lost her father? And after the funeral, they went, like the family, to a buffet style restaurant. And as they were sitting down, getting ready to get up and go get food, the woman looks over and she says, oh my God, she screams inside this restaurant and she shouts, Dad, Dad, Dad. She sees her dad, she says, I see my dad, Dad, Dad. And she's screaming, Daddy, right? This woman says she's seen her father cleaning a table and then walked back into the kitchen when she shouted, Dad. Her adult son said he saw a glimpse of him as the guy walked back into the restaurant, but she's the only one that's seen him. She's convinced she's seen her father. Now, there are so many stories about people that will see people that pass away, but this woman is convinced. She goes up and she talks to the restaurant manager and she says, hey, who is that? Who is the person that was cleaning the tables? Guess what the person says? We don't have anybody in that section right now. It's not open until 2 p.m. What do you think happened? Was that her father? I think it was.
If you're easily spooked, don't watch this. Back again with another real ghost story. This one sent to me by a follower named Heather who lives in Southwest Virginia, and she's had some weird ass experiences in her house. This house is an old school cattle farm. It was built in 1900, and Heather's landlord is the grandchild of the original builder. She said as soon as they moved in, things were just off. The first thing she remembers is that her 5-year-old son was constantly seeing a man in an Abraham Lincoln hat, and he was talking about this a lot. So she's like, hey, if it doesn't scare you, don't be afraid, but if it does, don't show it that you're afraid. Meanwhile, her 7-year-old daughter is in her room saying that she keeps seeing a woman who's been badly burned, and she had a phantom voice whisper in her ear, I am here. And this is all within the first week. One day, she's dropping her son off at school, and one of his teachers is the niece of the landlord. She mentions to her, hey, he's been telling me that he's seeing a guy in our house who's wearing an Abraham Lincoln hat. And the landlord's niece looks at her and says, oh my God, that gave me chills. Your landlord's grandfather, the original builder of the home, always wore an Abraham Lincoln style hat. So the son was actually seeing the original owner of the home. Things after this start to pick up at the house a little more. She said one day her husband and his nephew were sitting in the living room watching TV. The nephew's like, what's Heather doing in the closet under the stairs? That closet is storage. He swears he saw someone that looked just like Heather staring back at him from inside that closet, but it wasn't her. As the years go by, they're hearing voices in empty rooms, seeing shadows that don't belong to anybody. And they're constantly smelling coffee and cigarette smoke, which Heather said reminds her of her grandmother. Fast forward 13 years in 2022. Heather's a grandmother now, and her daughter is coming to the house to pick up her baby. And there's like this overgrown wood pile that she parks next to. She goes to walk into the house and she hears her toddler's voice calling to her from that area. She's like, why is my kid out here? And she starts looking around. She doesn't see anything because there was no one there. The toddler was inside sleeping. A few months later, Heather's son hears his older sister's voice, who doesn't live at this home anymore, calling to him from this overgrown woodpile area. So they full on have a mimic problem in this house. And for whatever reason, it keeps mimicking the children, which upsets me so much. And the last thing that Heather shared with me didn't happen in the house, but it was freaky. She said that she was in the hospital in Tennessee giving birth to one of her children, and she was dozing off in her hospital room alone, and all of a sudden she feels somebody grab her ankles and start yanking her down the bed. Which I've had dreams like this before where I feel like I'm kind of being slowly pulled, but when I wake up, I've never actually been moved. Heather said she was actually moved from the pillow further down the mattress. If you like this story, hit the follow button. And if you have ever lived in a haunted house and have a story that you'd like to share, please send it to the email in my bio. Bye.
This one is definitely a spooky one. You might not want to watch this one at night. Or do, if you dare. This one is definitely a long one, so let's get straight into it. So for the sake of this story, we're going to call this girl May. This story took place in Job Corps in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So May had actually been to Job Corps before, back in 2013, and she said despite the history of that place, which used to be, if you don't know, a mental hospital, and she said a TB hospital. When I looked up TB, it says tuberculosis. So a tuberculosis / mental health hospital. And there was also a cemetery right across the street from the campus. Despite all of those factors, back in 2013 when she went, she said it was a pretty normal experience. In fact, she actually had a good time. And that's why she wanted to come back in 2017, and that is where the story begins. She said there was a little college side next to the bigger dormitories. And the larger dormitory building on the second floor were basically the rooms where everybody would stay, and on the first floor was the cafe and the classes, basically. So a little preface is that May said that she had experiences in the past of seeing and hearing things that other people were not able to see and hear. But it was never really anything concrete. It would be like orbs or like things passing by, and anytime she would focus her vision, it would be gone. So like, you know. However, her stay at Job Corps, even her first day, would change that perspective forever. So her first day, she walks into her dorm and she meets her first roommate. For the sake of the story, we'll call her Cece. She described the room having 2 bunk beds and 4 storage lockers. So May chose her bed, she chose the bottom bunk, and Cece also chose her bed. She chose also the next bottom bunk over. The two are sitting down, getting to know each other, and Cece is a Christian girly, and I mean die hard. As they're getting to know each other, putting their things away, in walks the third roommate, and we're going to call her Kim for the sake of the story. In walks Kim, and Kim is a Muslim woman. Now everybody's sitting down and they give each other a list of boundaries to make living each other more comfortable moving forward. And as everybody's talking, May starts to suddenly feel like there's like children around her, like there's like this childlike energy, and it's so bothersome that she has to walk over and open up the window to let some air in. And I don't know if you've ever felt energy or spirits in a room before, but it's an extremely freaky feeling. So everybody is talking. May is completely freaked out, but she doesn't want to say anything because she doesn't want to creep out her Christian roommate and her Muslim roommate. After May and Cece finished unpacking, they decided, let's just go downstairs to explore, look around, let's look at the cafe and see what they got going on down there. As they're walking, Cece mentions, why do I feel like there's children around me? Like, I feel like children are following us. And that's like, aha, because that confirmed exactly what May was feeling. Even though May validated Cece, they weren't gonna be the ghost hunters, so they just dropped it and proceeded on their cafeteria tour. After the ladies checked out the cafe, they began to make their ways back upstairs when Cece noticed that the staircase that they literally just came down from now suddenly had toddlers' footsteps on them. So Cece's just like, girl, do you see these toddler footsteps? Again, they're not ghost hunters, so they just dropped it and proceeded to their room. Once they got to the room, May asked Cece if she could tell her something without any judgment, which Cece would give her the room to open up, and she would tell Cece she didn't want to come off weird or creepy, but ever since she got in the dorm, she felt something weird. She felt the childlike energy. She felt everything. So she's right here with you that some might actually be going on. The rest of the day went on. Later that night, an RA came in to, of course, make sure that everybody was in their rooms, that everybody was doing what they were supposed to do. After the checkup, everybody went to sleep. Angel was fast asleep until she heard a noise that woke her up. So Kim, the Muslim roommate, she had actually chosen the bed above May's bed. So they were like bunk beds. So May wakes up and notices that a woman is standing over her bed, staring, hovering over Kim. Well, the lady must have heard her move because her attention then switched from Kim right to May. And this lady came really close to May's face. And May, being extremely annoyed because why are you this close, gave her this look of being annoyed and then turn around and just go back to sleep. Assuming that this is just a rude RA just doing her job, May would turn around and just resume back to sleep. Following morning, May wakes up really tired and both of her roommates are already halfway dressed. She gets up and she's telling them about the RA that was in the room last night. And she was like, as a matter of fact, Kim, that lady was all up in your face. So they're like, RA? She's like, yeah, she was in her nightgown. She had gray hair, glasses. And automatically, upon hearing those details, Kim said, wait, what? Kim just started rummaging through her things. She described this lady to the T. This lady had gray hair, glasses. Kim pulls out her mother's obituary and gives it to May, and May realizes that that woman in that picture was who in fact was standing over her bed to look at Kim. So now Kim's just like, oh my God, I was rude to I was rude to Kim's deceased mother. Because she was so annoyed that she was that close to her face, she just dismissed her. Oh my goodness. But ultimately, this is really hard to believe. So Kim and Cece are like, maybe this is just like a really fat misunderstanding. So let's just drop it. The theme of this story is them dropping it. And also too, May was thinking, in her defense, there is no way she actually saw a ghost that clearly. Like, there's no way. So they went on with the day. Nothing happened. It was a pretty ordinary day. She got back to the dorm, and this is when her torture nightmares began. Because every night for a week, she dreamt that she was a patient wearing a straitjacket, outrunning a terrifying doctor. Those dreams were so bad and so intense that it actually started to affect her waking life, where she started being more and more aggressive to staff. She even threw a chair out of a window once. And everybody's just thinking that, yo, she's losing her mind because she never told anybody about the dreams that she was having or how she's dealing with having seen a literal ghost. But the night that her dreams stopped, a girl that she said that lives maybe 4 doors down from her went up to the 3rd floor. And mind you, you're not actually supposed to go up there. The 3rd floor you're not allowed up there for some reason. But this girl actually managed to make her way up to the 3rd floor to explore. And there this girl would see that there were still furnitures up there from the time that this was a tuberculosis hospital. The reason why this girl was frantically banging on her door was because when she came back to her dorm, everybody else was asleep. She notices that there was a terrifying doctor in her room. So she ran out of that room like frantically, like you could not convince her to get back into that room. So she's just knocking on May's door, and May would open the door, and that would be her first official time meeting that girl. And the girl would tell May, I don't know, something just kind of led me here. Something told me like you would be able to help. So like I'm here. So May ended up telling the girl about her dreams and like the similarities, and they're like, there's no way this is not real, because they didn't even know each other existed before these experiences. So over the course of a month, nothing crazy was happening in particular. However, in other people's counts, they've heard women crying in the bathroom. Some have said that they've seen kids. So with all of this information, May doesn't want any type of smoke. She just wants to go on about this without bothering any spirits. And everything was going good. But then she had to be moved to the college side. And at the college side, she gets her own dorm. She used to sit out in the lobby like the rest of the students, but she was fixated on this specific set of pipes that this building had. Because those pipes used to make some weird noises. It sounds like something was banging on those pipes. And May just thought, nah, this has to be something supernatural. She was so fixated on those pipes that one day an RA approached her and asked her, are you good? And she would go on and explain that, my father used to build houses and like pipes are not supposed to make that sound. And she knows that some plumbers would tap the pipes to communicate. So what's this? The RA agreed about the pipes and offered to bring her in some crystals because he said he had a gut feeling about her. So he bought homegirl some crystals the next day, and she picks a amethyst out of the bunch. And she picked the amethyst based off of how she felt. And she told the RA that something in the corner of the room wanted her to keep that amethyst. He told her that it was safe to look in the corner, and when she looked in the corner, she saw a small memorial for a boy who was unalived in that school. So she kept the amethyst for safety. The RA notices that May has a gift. So he asked her, hey, would you be willing if me and a few other students went down to the basement and sort of investigate? What are those banging pipes about? Maybe we'll find some answers down there. And May herself was very curious, so she agreed. So the next day, her, the RA, and a few students would walk to the basement to go investigate. If you guys want to hear the rest of the story, you gotta comment part 2.
So I have a story from when I was 17 years old that to this day is unsettling to me and scary, and I still don't even know what to make of it, to be honest. But when I was 17, my best friend at the time, Matt, wanted to go visit his brother in Mississippi. Matt's brother was stationed in Mississippi with the Navy, and he lived in this house with his girlfriend and this other guy who was a Navy SEAL. I never met him, but I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, so the whole plan was to go to Mississippi, hang out with Matt's brother, and then we were gonna go to New Orleans and go hang out on Bourbon Street and do all that. The drive was about 2 or 3 hours for me and Matt. So while we're driving there, Matt decides to tell me then, hey, by the way, my brother's house is haunted, ha 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 ha. They've been having some problems, you know, isn't that crazy? And I immediately got irritated that he didn't tell me that before. And if you guys don't know this about me, I grew up in a haunted house, and my parents had to have priests come through and bless the home and all that. So there's history there for me, and it's just uncomfy to me, and I don't want to be around it. And that's it. So we end up getting there. I meet Matt's brother and his brother's girlfriend, and they're super cool, and we're all talking, hanging out. They're telling us about, you know, what's been going on and all that stuff, and it was getting really bad for them. But they end up telling us a story about what happened in that house. And the story is really sad because it was a mother and her son, and the son was playing in the driveway, and he ran into the street and got hit by a car and passed away. And the mother, being depressed, on the ceiling fan in the living room. Guess where me and Matt were sleeping? In the living room underneath the ceiling fan. And yeah, so first night, Matt decides to get really drunk and everyone else goes to sleep. It's midnight, Matt blacks out and he's dead asleep. And I'm laying on the floor in the living room next to Matt. We had blankets and pillows, and we had a big flat screen TV in front of us, and I put on Something Happy, and I put on the movie Jackass. And I'm sitting there and I'm slowly nodding off. And do you know when you're sitting at night in front of a TV screen and you can kind of see the light flashing over your eyelids? You can like see the screen almost. So yeah, I was seeing that. So as I'm falling asleep, I start feeling footsteps pressing into the carpet around my body. And I thought it was maybe Matt. So I turn and look, and Matt's sleeping. So it wasn't Matt. And the footsteps keep walking around my body, especially around my face. I feel the carpet pressing in around me. And my body goes into this state of fear. I was like frozen, I felt paralyzed, and I didn't know what to do. And next thing you know, the screen in front of me goes black. And I can hear Jackass playing, but it's just black. And I feel a heavy presence standing over me. And it felt like there was somebody standing over me, which is so unsettling to think about. And I start praying. That's like the only thing I feel like I was able to do. I just started like praying, like, God, protect me, like put a veil over me. I don't want to see this, like, please go away. I didn't know what to do, and I end up falling asleep. Don't know how, but I did. And yeah, we wake up. I told them what happened. They're like, oh yeah, that's, you know, she walks through the hallway, she walks through the living room. And I was like, okay, that's creepy. So fast forward to the middle of the day. Matt's brother and his girlfriend, they go to work, and me and Matt are just hanging out at the house. We're in a good mood. We're not even thinking about anything, and we're sitting in the kitchen. So we're sitting in this round table in the back. So basically, I'm sitting here, and Matt is you, and behind me is a doorway, like a little bit further back behind me, and it goes to like the front door, and then the hallway down to the bedrooms, and then the living room. So me and Matt are eating boiled peanuts, talking, laughing. I have photos from this day, and we are in a great mood. And Matt looks right past me, and he goes, I'll name Matt's brother's girlfriend, Sarah. He goes, Sarah. And I'm like, Matt, Sarah's not here. And he goes, Sarah. And I was like, Matt, Sarah's not here. And then the door slams at the end of the hallway. And me and Matt spring up without saying a word to each other and haul ass out of that house. I've never ran so fast in my life, like genuinely. Like we sat outside of that house until his brother and his brother's girlfriend came back. And we did not go back in until they came back, and we told them what happened. And they said, like, it's normal, it's been happening, and it's creepy. So that's pretty much all we experienced, as I mean, at least that I can remember. And fast forward to what I heard is that Matt's brother and his girlfriend at that time, they ended up having to move out of that house. The Navy had to move homes for them, because it got really aggressive, and whatever they were dealing with in there did not want them there. And yeah, that was not Sarah, and it was really unsettling for me. And yeah, to this day, I don't really know how to explain it, but I thought it was really creepy.
Oh, finally, we are done with the stories. They are so interesting, especially the one from Haiti. Also, that Haiti Asian girl, she called herself Asian girl. Her stories are so interesting, and you can get them all on TikTok. I'll try and see if I can get their handle and drop them in the description box. About this ghost story, I think I have one too that I've heard. In fact, I have not heard it. I think I've experienced it back home in my childhood, and I think I was 9 years. Yes, back in Africa, we stay in a compound house. Yes, we have next door neighbor closer to us, so we all live as family. So there was one of my neighbors whose daughter passed on. So when she passed on, there are some weird occurrences that kept on happening. I don't know what happened, and in the morning she just the mother woke up. No, that was the sister. She woke up and she was telling the people in the house that, and the sister came to the house trying to make some noises in the kitchen. That's the utensils. She was trying the utensils. I don't even know how to say it, but she said the kitchen utensils started making noise, um, falling down, throwing up and down in the kitchen. So she was so scared. So the sister was saying that no, she doesn't understand. So the mother was telling her that no, she doesn't have to be worried about it, because her sister just came in to visit the family, because she still doesn't believe that she's no more. She still doesn't believe. So she still feels that she's still among with the living. Because when you die, you have 40 days to leave the earth. To leave the earth. That's what I've heard. You have 40 days. So I think she was waiting for her 40 days, because she died, that was 3 days ago, and 3 days ago, and she started appearing. So until her 40 days is over, she's never going to stop coming. So it's true. And what we've experienced, that she kept on coming until the 40 days. So after the 40 days, they did some rituals for her until she left, and she never appeared again. So I do believe that ghosts do exist, because I'm not surprised about it. So guys, what do you think? Is it something that you believe? If yes, you believe about it, you can also drop your thoughts in the comment section, and also let me know the kind of stories that you want us to cover. You can drop the topic in the comment section, so that I can cover it. I'll get some more scary stories, so that we can drop it down. So please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and also share to your family who also, or friends who also think that they can enjoy stories like this. And if you're a mystery and you want to know, if you're someone who wants to know about the unseen, the mythical world, the spiritual world, you can join us, because this page is about creepy and scary stories that we're going to discuss about. Thanks for watching, and see you in my next video.